Igal, Arsenal, the door has been left ajar
Let's talk about it.
by the Tarkovsky goal last night. A Arsenal lifeline has been gifted, but we know that the Martinelli, we know that the Havertz injuries are a disaster for you. But do you see yourself winning your next two games? Away against Leicester, at home against West Ham? Can you get the job done and keep the pressure on Liverpool?
I still believe in my defense. I still believe in my midfield. My attack might be very, very poor at this point. And I think any team in the league, you look at Liverpool, you look at Man City, they lose four of their six attacking options. They're gonna be down to their bare bones also, and it's not gonna be any better than what we currently have either. So I think you look at our midfield and attack, we should have enough to get through it. And set pieces being such a big threat in our attack, and Arsenal also not having any goal scorer in the top 10 this season, it is quite impressive that we're even in the position that we're in right now in the first place. So I do believe we'll have enough. Leicester away is going to be tougher now that we don't have our main guys. But if we can get Saka and Martinelli back, maybe we could do something. But right now, it's all in Liverpool's hands. We don't have control over what they do. We only can control what we do. And Terry, I do think we have enough for versus Leicester now. I'm going to have to reevaluate how we perform versus Leicester to give you a real take versus West Ham, because West Ham beat us last year, if I'm not mistaken, at our ground. So I'm going to have to be a little bit more cautious going into that game with their new manager and everything else. But Leicester, I expect us to beat them. Relegation team, we should be able to get the best out of them. They're not going to have a serious threat in attack.
What do you think the options are going to be for you now up front? We know the players are available, but are there any academy players? Are there any kind of
Did you not hear?
No.
Did you not hear? Mikel Moreno is the backup striker now. It indicates
that's not real. That's not real.
No, it's genuinely real. It came out that Mikel Moreno is seen as a Manuel Fellaini type, or a midfielder that can come in and be a battering ram and help out as a backup striker in the case that Trossard. Yeah, in the case that Trossard gets injured,
he's the least physical player. Every time I see him go
because he's good. Because he's good aerially, because he's good in the air. Rumor has it that it's a rumor, but that's what the rumor is, that he could be the backup. And also there is an academy striker who's, I think, 17 years old that they're looking at that could also be an option, which they did not loan out because of the injuries, and they wanted to have him as an option off the bench in the case of an emergency.
I know that Arteta wishes that he had that kid that went to Manchester United right about now. What is his name? Like Cheeto?
No. I think it's the other way around.
Martin, it'd been nice to have him at the moment.
I think it's the other way around. I think Cheeto Obi Martin is probably the biggest loser out of this whole Arsenal injury situation, because he would be starting in Premier League.
Did he force a move, Agal? Did he want to leave?
He basically forced a move. Arsenal offered him 2 times what they originally were going to offer him, but Manchester United offered him more.
Did he leave before Nketiah left?
Yes. He left before Nketiah left. He basically was out of contract, and he never signed his new contract. Fair. He signed the highest contract he could sign with Manchester United, and Manchester United basically said they're going to give him an opportunity to first team football. And really and truly, Manchester United's pathway with Kobe Mainoo, Garnacho, playing a bunch more academy kids than we did last year, it looked like Manchester United was going to give him a lot of opportunities because they played the most academy kids last year.
Like, I understand why he left. Like,
but this season, looking at the context of the situation we're in, you look at Cheeto Obi Martin. You look at the kid who went to the kid that went to Brighton. What do you call it? You look at the guy who went to he's playing currently at Ipswich, Omari Hutchinson. All these guys would be getting opportunities right now if they're still at Arsenal. But for one reason or another,
there's no way to predict that. Like, I have to wait for every single attacker to get injured for me to get an opportunity. So, like, I don't think that him leaving was a bad thing, right?
No, but look at Miles and Skelly. Look at Ethan.
Well, yeah, but aside from those two, who else has Arteta in the 5 years really brought through from the academy?
He gave
that's got like consistent run. Like, who really?
Don't forget that Arteta was he might not have given consistent run to a lot of academy kids. I'll give you that, but here and there he did give them opportunities, and we have been in a title race for the last 2 seasons. And you're not going to be chopping and changing, putting in 18.
Nah, for sure. But so like that's a great point, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I think like him going to Manchester United, where they do have a more of an emphasis on getting academy products into their first team, I don't think it was a bad move. Now, obviously, if maybe if he could see the future and know that come January, Kai Havertz would be out and that there would be no other strikers that they could rely on, then maybe he would have stayed. But I don't think it was a bad move. But just in general, though, I'm kind of struggling to figure out how are Arsenal going to keep themselves competitive in these games coming up now, especially offensively, because
No, it's
I
very
think
simple.
that. Go ahead.
It's very simple. Our defense creates
Not for
creates a
sure.
goal for us. Our
Yeah.
defense is going to win the ball high up the pitch and create counterattack situations, or not only counterattack situations where we're high up the pitch and we're going up against maybe two defenders that are not recovering quick enough. It's really going to be more if we face low blocks where we have to break them down, we might struggle. But really and truly, our midfield and our defense, I back us to keep the games close. It's just how many goals can we nick? And
And again, I don't disagree with that, right? Obviously, like your defense is what's going to keep you in these games, but I think like a player that we have to like look at a little bit more is, for example, like Amar Odegaard, right? Like now with no Saka being there, no like Kai Havertz, I think is Martinelli injured as well, right?
Yeah.
So now you need Kai Havertz, sorry, not Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard. You need him to be very aggressive. Like he can't be passive. He can't always look to like lay the ball off. No, like he needs to be the one that takes the ball. He needs to be the one that's shooting. That's like he's the X factor now for Arsenal's attack, and he needs to be a lot better.
I don't know if you know, but ever since Martin Odegaard was given time off for it to have his baby, he has been struggling, mate. He has been struggling. Like his form has been off, and it's not only his pace, it's not only his passing, his shooting has been horrendous. He has one goal this season, and it was the tap in that he scored versus Man City. He has not scored a single goal besides that in the league.
Like, who else can you look at now during this spell and say?
Well, the reality is we have to trust Ethan. We have to trust Trossard. We have to trust Raheem Sterling. We have to trust Gabriel to chip in. We have to trust Declan Rice to try to get involved. Mikel Moreno maybe get involved. Really and truly, it has to be a collective because it cannot be one individual.
Can I throw this in from the other direction? We have seen one of the greatest English teams of all time collapse after a few injuries this season and not be competitive. And I mean, you saw what Madrid did to them the other day, and you yourself said that you didn't even play well and you still managed to beat them.
Yeah.
If Arteta navigates the next 5 or 6 weeks until he gets Martinelli, until he gets Saka back, and they're still within touching distance of top of the league, maybe even and I'm going by the next 2 games for Arsenal were very winnable against West Ham, very winnable against Leicester, because those teams are not particularly great this season. And in that same period, you've got Wolves going to Liverpool, and then they go away to Villa, which is hard, and then they play Man City away, which, look, they should be beating City, but you never quite know.
Yeah.
If Arteta navigates this period and maintains the competitiveness, keeps them in, within touching distance of this title race, what does that say about him as a manager to circumnavigate this situation? And I know people will partly blame him for creating the situation, not buying an attacker in the summer. I totally agree with that. But when we're judging it from this point onwards, a lot of people are expecting Arsenal to completely fall off now. And being, if that doesn't happen and he manages to keep them up there, what does that say about him as a manager? Does it tell us anything?
It tells us everything, Terry.
What does it tell you?
The board have let him down. This man is the reason why Arsenal are in the position that they're in, and he has been already navigating Martin Odegaard's injury, already navigating a centre-back midfield defensive situation where at the beginning of the season, our midfielders were all injured. Midway through the season, our defenders were constantly getting chopped and changed. And now, back into the season, all of our attackers have been out. If Liverpool, Chelsea, anybody was in this situation that we're in currently, you'd see a massive drop-off. But for us to be 6 points off the top of the league, where we've had only 2 players, Terry, who've been fit the whole season, that's Raya and Trossard, is actually impressive. And I don't think Arteta gets enough credit to still keep Arsenal in this situation. He gets criticized for constantly making mistakes, but the fact that we've been in this situation where we've still been this close in touching distance to Liverpool, I think we don't even need that striker to be better than Liverpool this season. We just needed a fully fit squad. We'd be in a better situation than Liverpool, 100%. And I think if it wasn't for refereeing decisions and a couple injuries, we would be the ones looking at winning the league right now, and not them.
I actually agree with Igal there in terms of you do have to give Arteta a lot of credit. And I think like you brought up Man City. I think the difference is Whereas Pep is stuck in his ways, right? Like Pep's not gonna adjust. It doesn't matter who's out there. He's gonna play the same style of football. I think Arteta, because he's not been as successful so far, and because he's still trying to figure out like what's best, I think like he does adjust better with all these injuries that he's had. So I think that you do have to give him some credit for that as well.
I don't think anyone gives him credit for that. I think majority of people think Arsenal are just doing what they're supposed to be doing, ignoring the fact that Martinelli has missed a big Martin Odegaard has missed time, all these players missing time. And I looked at it the other day, Terry. Compared to Arsenal having 2 players fit from their starting 11 the whole season, Liverpool have had 7. That is
I think there's that side of it. The problem is that everybody tries to point score in these circumstances. And what ends up happening is I saw some Arsenal guy, I don't follow him, it got retweeted. I'll find it later and send it to you, Gal, who tweeted something out. I told you at the start of the season that we'd end up in this situation because we didn't have enough players. Like we'd end up in a situation where we couldn't challenge anymore because we had too many injuries and we didn't have a big enough squad. And then people were showing him, like sending him back his tweet. What he said is that we're just not going to be in the title race all season. So it's like people claiming victory. I told you, no, you didn't say you would fall off from a title race come February because of the injuries. You said your squad wasn't good enough this season and Arteta wasn't good enough to even get back into one. You can't claim a moral. And so what you'll now see is no credit being given by him to Arteta because he wants to say, I was right about Arteta not being good enough. And I think there's a mixture in this. I think there's always a lack of balance when it comes to in the Arsenal fan base. I think that Arteta should have maybe pushed harder in the summer. I think he got a lot of control, as I'm being told, should have got another attacker in that summer. And if it was an either or either between Moreno or Calafiori and an attacker, now knowing what we know, they should have gone and got an attacker. Having said that, I think he was hung out to dry in January because the ball can see the injuries. There's no way he said it's okay. I'm okay. I don't believe.
He said he was disappointed.
Yeah, he did. But I don't believe on any level that he has walked out of a meeting with the board and gone, I'm completely happy with buying no one in January. And I think just like Chelsea and just like Man United, they hung him out to dry. What I would say when you look at the injury problems that Arsenal have had and the fact that most of Arteta's detractors, whether they're Arsenal fans or not, have stated that 2 years running, since that shock title race no one expected, 2 years running, they predicted we won't be in it again this year. For you guys to be in it again, I just watch them try and claim these moral victories. I told you so. And I just think, but you've got that little bit right. But the rest of what you said is so wrong. I don't understand. This is what I don't understand about Arsenal fans. Most of their debates are arguing over which fan was right or wrong. And I just listen to most of the debates and go, but you've all got loads wrong and got loads right. What you should be talking about is what's best for your fucking football club, not trying to get your dicks out and seeing who's got the biggest willy. It's a bit weird. Because even if you've got the biggest one, wanting to stand there with other men getting your willy out, working out who's got the biggest one is strange. It's just a strange thing to do, no matter how big your boy is. It's just focus on your club. So, look, I think it's a terrible situation that's been created that multiple people are responsible for. And Arsenal fans are the only ones who I think that I have a bit of sympathy for because you don't really control it, as an example. But yeah, I'm interested to see the next few weeks now because I don't know if Arsenal are going to drop off as quickly as people think, especially not the next 2 games. I think you win your next 2 matches. After that, the games get a lot harder. There'll be bigger tests and having no. I mean, you don't have a prolific striker anyway, but having no Havertz, no Saka, no Martinelli. If you manage to get through that, I think it demonstrates a real good quality. Again, I think it demonstrates great team unity, a great culture in the dressing room, and your ability to adapt. And I'm intrigued to see how it goes. I really, really am. It's been
one positive that can come from all this heartbreak and poor form and injuries is Miles Lewis-Skelly and Ethan playing a lot of minutes this season and actually breaking through and showing that they're ready for this level. These guys could only get better, hopefully. And that is 2 players that could save us millions in the transfer budget, in our transfer budget, looking for a backup for Saka or another backup defender for next season.
Yeah, I get that.
Arsenal's defense is too good for them to fall off necessarily. Yeah,
I agree
as
with
long
that.
as you're able to keep like Saliba and Gabriel fit, I think Arsenal will be able to withstand. Now, maybe you might drop points in terms of like draws because your attack is not good enough.
Not
I think that your
finishing
defense will
off.
always keep you in the games. Like you'll never be out of the game.
And one more thing, Arteta's not going nowhere. To the Arsenal fans who want Arteta sacked, remember this. He's going to get a new contract. He's not going nowhere.
Did he just get a new contract?
And
he can get another one.
He's going to get a new contract. It's already been agreed at some point this season, if I'm not mistaken.
Damn.
And all of this stuff about Arsenal, yes, we didn't win the league last year. Yes, we didn't win the league year before that. We might not win it this year. But why just throw everything away?
No, wait, but then it gets to a point where how much longer though? Because it's like you're 5 years in.
I'm looking at my team. I'm looking at the age of my team. I'm looking at the situation with my team, and I'm saying he sorted out the defense. He sorted out the midfield. Give him the window, get him his attackers, and the sky's the limit. We are currently we are currently the only team I think in Premier League history who have challenged for the league up until February with no goal scorer in the top 10.